So you have to remember this, that whatever happens, information security is all about these three things which are flashed on the screen: confidentiality, availability, and integrity. The CIA Triad. You have to ensure that the data does not go into wrong hands, which means the confidentiality of the data is maintained. You have to ensure that the business owners have the data available with them by ensuring the availability of the data. You have to ensure that the integrity of the data is maintained. No unauthorized changes are made to the data. That is how the integrity of the data is ensured. Whatever happens, the security will always revolve around these three things. If you are sent for auditing, if you are sent for reviewing a particular reviewing a particular project of information security, you have to ask questions related to the CIA trial. That is where the all the security is revolving around. So the next comes the opposite of the CIA triad, which is disclosure against confidentiality, alteration against integrity, and destruction against availability, which, as the name states, is easy to understand. So we'll not waste much of time on this. We'll just go ahead. So first comes confidentiality. Confidentiality is ensuring secrecy of data. How can you ensure the secrecy of the data? By preventing unauthorized read access to data, by preventing an attack, a theft of personally identifiable information such as credit card information. Data should only be available to users who have these three things: clearance, formal access approval, need to know. So basically, whoever is your data administrator, he should check these three things before giving access to anyone. First is whether he has the clearance to access the data, and there is a formal access approval given to him by a suitable authority for accessing the data. Then whether there is a need to know. Then comes the integrity. Integrity is assuring that the data has not been modified, tampered with, or corrupted. There are three perspectives to ensuring the integrity. First is preventing the unauthorized subjects from making modifications. Only authorized subjects should have the rights to make any modification to the data. Prevent authorized subjects from making unauthorized modifications, such as mistakes. Maintaining the consistency of objects so that the data is correct and maintains its proper relationships with the child, peer, or parent objects. So by following these three principles, the integrity of the data can be ensured. So what are the controls and countermeasures to ensure the integrity? First one is access control, giving access to anyone who is having suitable clearance, need to know. Authentication, by only giving access post authentication of a subject. Intrusion detection systems, activity logging, maintaining and validating object integrity. Encryption, only after the process of encryption and decryption is followed in a proper way, the data should be modified. Then by hashing, which we will go in detail in later domains. Hashing helps you identify whether the integrity of the data has been changed or not. Hashing is the most suitable mechanism, I would say. If the hash values have not changed, that is the way to find out whether there has been any modification in the data or not. So hashing is one of the controls that is in place in organizations to ensure the integrity. Integrity attacks. What kind of attacks generally happen which tamper the integrity of the data? So first is viruses, then logic bombs, unauthorized access, errors in coding, malicious modification, and whether any backdoors in the system exist or not. So, one thing I would like you all to note down is that in between, in the slides, whenever I feel something is important and is questionable, I will keep highlighting that part. So, that can be noted as it is, and I will also try to tell you what kind of exact questions will be asked. I know they will not come as it is, but uh, at least that will help you somewhat in your approach to the exam, and you can remember that thing and note it down somewhere in your notes. So moving ahead, availability. The data and services are available when needed by any of the business owners or the authorized subjects. So the availability of the data is ensured. This can be done by removing a single point of failure or preventing a denial of service attacks. So single point of failure can be removed by having a redundant or high availability setup, and DOS attacks can be prevented by various mechanisms that we'll discuss in further slides. So what are the threats to availability? The threats to availability are a device failure like a server or a database that has failed, which has led to affecting the availability of data to the authorized users, a software glitch or an error, environmental issues such as heat, static, flooding, power loss, sometimes which are beyond the control of the administrator, denial of service attacks, human errors. Sometimes these errors like deleting important files by an administrator or an engineer, under allocating resources like not providing proper uh, RAM or storage to a particular virtual machine, and mislabeling objects. By labeling secret data as unrestricted, you are creating a threat to its availability. So that these are all the threats to availability of a data. So what are the controls that should be in place to ensure the availability of data? The intermediary delivery systems design. There should be routers in place, proxies wherever possible, so that the direct access to the main server is avoided. Access controls, we read earlier as well. Monitoring the performance and traffic. Redundant systems, having backups, having a business continuity plan in place, and not only having a plan but also a plan which has been tested recently. That is most important, because the industry we are in, everything keeps on changing very frequently, so our plans should be up to date and tested most recently. And fault tolerant systems.